All right, we are finally at the stage of getting into animation. So here we are, lesson number 12. And maybe you've seen Charlie Brown or any of those specials before. This animation, which by the way was done by hand back in probably the early 1960s, maybe the late 1950s, okay? Basically, what is happening here is it's playing a trick on your eyes. There are single still images that are flying by so quickly it appears like animation for you. Okay, let's look at an example of what I mean by that. Think back, maybe elementary school or in some kind of art class. Were you ever asked to make some kind of flip book? Okay, a flip book tricks your eyes into thinking it's moving because you've got a similar image with a little bit of change that's going by so quickly. It gives that feeling or that kind of deception visually that something's moving. I think today it's common to do them with a pad of post-it notes. So let's take a look at this one. You're seeing it's going to be a little car here. And let me make this a little bit bigger. All right, here we go. Watch this one. And of course, no, well, let me do it here. Let's do it here. Here we go. All right, they're going to fan through and watch how it appears that the car is actually driving on the road somehow, some way. Cool, right? So when we start thinking about animation that you have seen, and let's be honest, Disney was kind of the standard that started all of this long, long ago with an original Mickey Mouse short little video about, I think it was called Steamboat Willie. Okay, so today what we're really thinking about is, all right, how do we animate our images? What do we need to have happen? So let's take a look at a couple things. So here's this original cartoon Steamboat Willie. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but what I want you to think about as you're looking at it is kind of how simple some of the animation is. This was just in black and white, but every single frame of this had to be hand drawn and then pieced together like a flip book to make it look like it actually is moving in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Here are some more of these flip books. I found these incredibly talented people that take the time to draw and make these all look so fabulous. These ones I think are now used on index cards. You'll see as they're fanned through how every single card changes just a little bit so that it gives that illusion of movement. Okay. You can tell if it's not going at a consistent speed or rate. It kind of has a slowdown, and maybe you actually see the card, those fanning through or passing by. But I'm amazed at how detailed and fabulous some of these look, to be honest, especially when they've colored them. This one has some excellent pencil drawings, people walking by. Oh, this is the one with the whales jumping, pretty clever. You can kind of see on these borders here how they have to kind of make sure each scene is very similar, or each frame is very similar to the next one. Let's see. I'll skip over this and hit a couple more here. Or maybe not, because I'm not seeing it. So here's what I want you to think about today. Okay, so we are going to start to see different things in your toolbox, primarily in the yellow world part of the toolbox. Now, besides draw sprites, so you've seen this one before, and you've seen the comments. Now what's going to happen is you're going to see this thing that's green called function draw. When you drag it over, it's going to look like this. Okay, that's why we call it a loop, because you have to put other blocks of code inside of it, and then it is going to run continuously at a speed to make your eyes visually get tricked into thinking something's moving. Okay, now this command right here, frame rate, this you get to change or set manually if you want. Okay, the default for this, and it runs fairly fast, runs 30 frames per second. So sometimes if you hear FPS when you're talking about anything video in the digital world, that's how many frames are passing by your eyes every second. And that's really what creates this illusion, like this one of the Peanuts gang here, moving. Now, as you get into programming, if you remember from when we were using Scratch, Scratch had in the control section here this forever loop right here. Okay, whatever you put in there just kept running, running, running. When we created the chase game, you had to have some kind of object that was bopping around on the screen, and it did it continuously. So you set it up with like a glide command to make it continuously move. That's basically exactly what the function, the draw loop, does. Okay, it's going to run 30 frames a second. Whatever you put in there is going to happen over and over and over again. Now, what is it going to look like in code.org? Well, let's take a peek here. I'm going to escape out of this. And let's get back to... We'll get into code.org here in a sec. Boom. I'm going to grab this one and come on over. All right. If you remember back when we were learning about random numbers, the checkpoint level for that lesson was create this thing. They called it the rainbow snake. All right. You had to have 6 ellipses, different colors, that were set a little bit farther apart x-wise. And then, as you were learning about random numbers, then each y value for these ellipses were bopping up and down a little bit. Okay? So, for example, you see each of these, and they're moving at this speed. All right? This one, I happen to manually set about 15 frames per second. If we wanted to slow it down a little bit, here's what 5 frames per second looks like. When you did this in lesson number 6, I said you just had to continuously hit reset, run, reset, run, reset, run in a succession, so you got this illusion of something moving. Well, now that we have the draw loop, we can do that automatically. Okay? If you set it to its original frame rate here, at 30 frames per second, look at how crazy that looks. Holy cow. All right? It really starts to bop and wiggle up and down. That's what using the random number in the Y position does to it. So today, in lesson number 12, you have 7 levels to work through. The assessment level here is a cute, simple little salt shaker. And this salt shaker needs to start basically bouncing up and down vertically. All right? And you're supposed to make it look like that. They've given you the starting point with the actual sprite, and then you have to add the draw loop, figure out what you need to put in there to make it look like this. All right, it's fun and exciting. I'm glad we're finally into animation, because now things come to life on the screen. All right, so go ahead and move on back to, and ignore this fire drill thing, move to lesson 12. However, if you have not finished your project in lesson 11, do that first. Make sure you work through all of those levels so that you are returning back to, I got to get this out of here, so that you are getting back to that level number 5 where you hit the submit button. Okay? So finish up lesson 11, finish up any missing work before you now start diving into lesson 12 and make things move. Good luck and happy coding.